this feeling, baby, we're invincible.
Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Rebuilding Notts County. It's the analysis days. So, I forgot to show you guys the leagues and how everything shooken out at the end of last season after the FA Cup, due to my pure excitement as to what had just happened. So I've gone a couple of days ahead so that the playoffs and the championship and the lower leagues can finish, so we can have a proper rounded look at it. Plus it means I can also talk to you guys about things like plans for next season and transfer funds. So first thing on the transfer funds, the budget is 56 million. Obviously I'll have to dump a load of that onto wages too, so we're probably looking at more like 40 million, which is a lot less than recent years. And the reason for that is quite simple, is that in those big signings of the likes of Celso, Alberto and Perrier over the recent seasons, we've had to offset a lot of that to future seasons' transfer funds with the whole 3-year installments thing. So we're going to have to be careful with that. But that being said, I think my plans in the summer are a lot more nuanced than they have been in recent years. Last year was very much a case of we must strengthen the defence. And I think for the most part we did a good job of that. I know we went on that spell towards the end of the season where we were conceding a lot of goals, but I think that was due to my laissez-faire attitude towards playing bigger sides. And I think had we adopted a more conservative approach like we did in the FA Cup final against Chelsea, then I think we might have got a lot more points from those matches and been far more miserly at the back. So that's definitely a plan for next season that we're going to take up. So this summer, I mean, my biggest plan just from looking at the way this season has gone is the key area of this team which needs improvement is the strike force. Maybe an attacking midfielder as well. I'm happy with the centre mids for now. I think Silla and Dubois could probably do a job with Dubois playing as the deep-lying playmaker and Silla playing as the Metsala for next season. That would be a good idea. If I find an amazing Metsala, I might be tempted, but it's really not top on my list right now. When I'm looking at the sort of the wide areas as well, I'm fine with Stepanek and Santana. We've got Lever, Lancaster, Griffiths that can fill in those roles, and we're going to need them to play next season because Europa League. Now, you might notice here that I believe the reason for this is because I think the likes of Chelsea and Man United might both be involved in European finals, and as a result, it doesn't know what they're going to be in next season. That's the only thing I can explain as to why it's got it like that. I think that must be the reason. So this is the Premier League. We already know about that. So we're going to go and have a look at some of the other leagues. Although I already know what happens in the Championship. You can see West Brom are promoted to the Premier League. They won the playoff final over Stoke. Kane Ritchie-Holster got 26 goals for Leeds United in the league, which is pretty damn impressive, I've got to say. In terms of the actual league itself, I wish it would show the league table properly. Leeds, of course, were champions. Bournemouth come up in second spot, which is sort of fair enough. Leeds, look at that, plus... sorry, no, it's not that bad actually in terms of goal difference. Not the sort of points that Norwich were banging up over recent seasons. Rotherham actually came 5th and got into the playoffs. Imagine if Rotherham had got to the Premier League. What a great day that would have been for football. Sheffield Wednesday go down, along with Pompey. No, that's a sad, sad time. And Barnsley, but would you believe it? Scunthorpe, after their amazing start to last season, very nearly surviving last year, they actually were in real trouble at one point in this year, and they've really pulled themselves out of it and have survived by 1 point to do a third season in the Championship. I've got a real soft spot for Scunthorpe in this save for some reason. So, going down to League One, as you can see, Chesterfield. Holy shit. Okay, so I have a real soft spot for Chesterfield as well in this save, due to the fact that they were basically coming up through the divisions with us. And my God, they've bloody done it. So they started off in the National League with us. And didn't they get promoted to League 2 with us as well? Back-to-back promotions, double time. And now they're in League 1. I'm pretty certain that's the way their record has gone. Look at this. National League, then they were in League 2 for a couple of seasons, then League 1, and now they're up to the Championship. That is absolutely incredibly impressive. Fair play to Chesterfield. And they've got Kieran Dewsbury Hall playing in the middle. You can't really like it anyway. And Tanganga of former Spurs. And of course, Ron Coates. They're like our second team. Bless them. Right, let's go quickly take a look at the league table while we're here. Bristol City are champions. QPR come up as well. Down go Doncaster, Blackpool, Grimsby Town, and Lincoln City. Lincoln City had a very, very poor season, it would seem. Any other surprises? Sunderland still languishing around in League 1. They've had a very poor time of it in this save. League 2. Burton Albion are champions of League 2, up to League 1. And Wrexham miss out on the promotion. Walsall, Port Vale, and Crawley Town. Crawley Town go up with 78 points. That feels like a very small amount of... And they lost their last 4 in the league. I'm amazed that they managed to hang on to that, to be honest. It just shows you how bad a lot of the teams were. The fact that Burton Albion were promoted to League 1 with 70 points. That's insane. Bromley get relegated from the Football League, though. That's a big shame. I like seeing those sort of sides stick around for a bit, and Wimbledon back out of the Football League again. Stockport considering themselves a comfortable League 2 side now, which is very pleasant to see. Woking also doing a solid job in there too. Into the National League rather. York City back in the Football League. Good stuff for York as Swindon failed to get back up to the Football League. And in the league, Yeovil Town, again, they won the league with 84 points and didn't win any of their last 4 matches. What is life? Guiseley very nearly got into the Football League, which would have been pretty interesting. Hartlepool go down along with Barrow, Havant and Waterlooville, and very much so Torquay United, who look like they've been gone for quite some time. So that's the league. That's how things have shaped up. Let's take a look at the squads. Just doing this obviously by sorting it by the current ability, and it seems that Marvin Suarez is the best player that we have in our squad right now, and I think he's had a pretty solid season. I feel really confident having him behind us in goal. Honestly, picking up him for £8 million is probably my deal of this entire save, I've got to be honest. Now, I did talk to the squad and did the whole squad meeting for next season, and as usual, that menu is still absolutely broken, where I said, oh, we might possibly stay up next year, and the squad went, no, you can't possibly expect us to do that. Yes, you're right, you've only won the FA Cup and come 9th. I couldn't possibly expect you to stay in the Premier League, you absolute meat computers. It's a frustrating one, but that's life. It just sucks though, because you have to think, what would an idiot do? And then that's what you have to do in those meetings, and it's kind of stupid, but whatever. Not much we can really do about that one. So Marvin Suarez, great season for him. Fair play to the lad. El Hadji Sila, I have enjoyed his work tremendously this year, and I look forward to looking at his stats for the season. I swear he had different hair before. I think I might have refreshed the skin. Does that change the hair? Or is that just like a dynamic thing now? I swear, maybe I just haven't paid attention to what he looks like. Ah, dear. Costel Troffin, here he is, 20 years old. Only 2 goals this year in 25 Premier League appearances. Admittedly, a lot off the bench. But the fact that he's only got 2 goals, I mean, I don't know what to do with Costel Troffin. He has got a new contract now, which means he's going to be here for a little while longer. But I do perhaps consider him going out on loan next year. It's a real shame. He looked like a world beater, and perhaps he still could have been. But I do think perhaps a new striker is on the cards next year. And the fact is, for a player to come through our youth academy that's now worth £15 million at the age of 20, it's still nothing to be sniffed at, don't get me wrong. I just had such high hopes for the guy, but when you look at his actual strike rate, 124 appearances as a striker, and he's scored 27 goals. That's not good enough, unfortunately, lads. Got to do better than that. Yoon Dong-yong, he's barely played this year. In fact, no Premier League appearances. He's just been swept under the rug as a result of a lot of the other stuff. His contract is up next summer. I might try and sell him this summer if we can get some money for him. If not, he'll probably be off in the summer. When he first joined, I think a lot of people, rightly so, like me, who looked at him and thought, right, this guy is like future star for us. But I think at the end of the day, he just hasn't been good enough compared to the likes of Celso and Gael Perrier. And yeah, I don't think he's quite going to cut the mustard anymore, unfortunately. Tunji Akinola obviously is on loan at Cardiff. His contract amazingly still has another year to go on it, which is disgusting. So we've got to find another place for him on loan next year to get that £33,000 off the wage bill. I can't believe we mugged Cardiff off into doing that, to be honest. That is quite some business there. Alberto, first season for the club. I've liked his work. I've liked his work a lot. 2 goals and 2 assists. That's fair enough. He's not been like fantastic on those elements, but I've seen a lot about him from a defensive standpoint that I have ridiculously liked. And we'll take a look at that in the actual stat part of things as we get into that later in it. Regan Booty, his contract expires now. Ah, dear. Right. Wants to start more games. He is unhappy because of the playing time situation. Now, we do have more money now, so if I could just maybe get, because he's not agreed to sign with any other clubs, I might still be able to get him to sign on, maybe on a lesser fee. In fact, should we try this? I think we should try this. Because I don't want to lose him, but I can't afford to pay him 100 grand a week. Offer new contract. Not interested. I mean, to be fair, the moment that I didn't give him his 100 grand a week, he has been not interested, basically. And then he started complaining about playing time, and yeah. And it sucks, it does. But I'm sure you can understand that giving him £100,000 a week was just not a sensible situation to be playing with. Like, the only player we've got that's on that kind of money is this guy, Celso, who, let's face it, is somewhat better than Regan Booty. 4 goals in the league, 1 in the cup, 1 assist from him as well. He's been a defensive powerhouse for us this season, I would say. We'll have a look and see what he's actually done from that point of view. But I've really, really liked him. Like, I know he cost us a lot of money, but I feel like it was a worthwhile signing, and I don't think he'll be going anywhere anytime soon. And if he does, it'll be for massive money. He sort of dropped off a bit towards the end, amazingly. Although sometimes I find that happens when players hit that sort of 5.5-star kind of situation. So scoring a lot more goals for us than he did for Bournemouth. Team training, I might have to take a little look at that. How on earth is he only considered an important player? He's played literally every single Premier League match. How much more game time can I give him? But there you go. Lamjad Chitiyu, I've been pleased with his performances this year. I feel like the only way I would potentially want to improve on him is if we could find someone who has decent dribbling and crossing ability. Because that's the one area that I think we do lack. But from a defensive standpoint, he's been phenomenal this season. He really has done a phenomenal job at just winning stuff in the air. It's worth £20 million now. He cost us under £1 million. Like, we'd make a massive amount of money on the deal, even if we did sell him, which I don't want to, unless we found someone amazing. And even then, I don't think I'd really want to do that either. Moussa Diallo is on trial, I think, so we'll ignore him for now. Alan Drina, who I had high hopes for, and I still kind of do, but I'm a little bit concerned that maybe he could have done with a loan spell this season and possibly hasn't played as much as I would have liked, because our centre-backs have been so consistent. So he has got a new contract, though, so he's going to be here for another 4 seasons no matter what. I might get him a loan spell next year. I don't know. I kind of want to keep some players around, because beyond that, we are starting to get into, like, dodgy territory here. And we are going to have... I think he'll play more next year, because with the Europa League, we're going to need to start rotating teams around. And I think Alan Drina might be the kind of player that could come in and might actually start getting some of this potential right up there next season. Remy Dubois! Only the 6 appearances, or 9 in total in the Premier League, but I can't really fault him for that. Like, he's missed most of the season with that horrible injury. I'm very interested to see what he could do next season. It sucks to lose him for that season, but I'm hoping over the summer he can really get himself knuckled down and have a great season for us next year. I think him and Stiller in the midfield will be great. David Ferguson, 31 appearances, a reasonable season from him. Nothing special. It does make me wonder if perhaps the Metsala isn't quite the ideal role for him, purely because his tackling is poor, is not got the best in terms of long shots. He can't really throw his weight about so much in the midfield, but look at that, £22 million he's now worth. Has this suddenly gone up due to us getting into Europe or something? Because he's worth a lot of money. Remember, he cost us like £300,000. We've got a lot of cheap players that are now worth an awful lot of money if the right deal was to be put on the table for us. And that is very, very pleasing, because every now and then you'll get an amazingly high bid for one of your players like this. And if the deal is right, sometimes I'm tempted to just take it, because you're never going to get as much money before, and you can usually reinvest that money. Scott Fuster, of course, has been out on loan at Wigan again this year. He's played 116 games for Wigan. He did have quite a serious injury at one point. He's the kind of player that I wouldn't actually mind moving on. He's worth a decent amount of money in this summer. If Wigan were interested, I wouldn't be opposed to moving him on as well. Adrian Gajic, of course, is just third choice goalkeeper for us right now, although it might become second, because Paul is complaining, as you'd expect. So he may not actually... he might well be having a more featured role next year, old guy. Ricky Griffiths. I genuinely cannot believe the effectiveness of Ricky Griffiths in this team. 140 appearances for Notts County now in his career, the 23-year-old. 3 caps for Wales as well. Look at the amount of cons he's got. It's just insane. But look at this. He's an EFL, he's basically a League One level player, and yet he scored 4 times for us in the Premier League in 7 starts. The guy is just incredible at just coming up with stuff when we need it. I think he scored 2 game-winning goals for us this year in the Premier League. I love Ricky Griffiths. I feel like he's got that kind of Bruno Bridges-ness about him, which I talked about in a recent episode as well. Something about him is just brilliant. Francisco Guajardo, he's not been bad overall, really, but he's fallen massively down the pecking order, because I believe that Darren Lever has got potential to overcome him due to that extra dribbling ability that he's got. If Guajardo was to be put a bid in for in the summer, I would bite their hand off, because he's on £70,000 a week. And, oh, look at this. This is very good news. If we could make a deal with Francisco Guajardo to move on, I would be very, very interested in doing that, because I believe that Lever can improve, and I can bring someone else through to be an understudy there, because I want to make sure that Lever really strengthens that left foot. It's reasonable now. I've got him training it again. So if we can get that up and get him becoming a 2-footed winger on that left-hand side behind Santana, we could really have something there for him. I genuinely feel like he's going to get a lot of game time because of the Europa League and whatnot. Sancho Hansen, again, he started 29 games in the Premier League and did not score a single goal. That is insanity. I literally cannot understand how that is possible. What about these attributes suggests that he should not have scored a single Premier League goal this season? And believe me, it's not because he's not had shots. I checked. He's had about 60. It is insane how many shots he's had in the Premier League. And they've been from good positions too. To have that many shots in the Premier League and not score a goal. Is he glitched? 14 finishing. 13 composure, decent anticipation. He'd have to score some, surely. He's got 2 goals in the cup, but that is absolutely incredible. And if we got the opportunity to move him on, I would have to absolutely do it if we found someone else. Again, he's worth decent money. We signed him for, I think, £4 million, and he's worth 15 now, so I guess there's that. Sam Hughes, of course, his contract's up in the summer. He's done great work for us, but he's just not been the player that he was before, which is obviously fine. It'll get some money for us off the bill. There's also my man, Kim. He's been sort of a bit part player this year. And again, there's another sort of player that I wouldn't mind moving on if we got the opportunity to, because of the fact that he's worth a lot of money and he's on high wages. And I want to make sure that we kind of balance that out a little bit. He's definitely improved. Okay, there's a few little things here because I think of matches recently played. A few little goals in the league, a couple of assists. I don't think he's been fantastic, but I do think when he gets this left foot beyond reasonable to whatever the one beyond that is, I think it's fairly strong. Then we might really be onto something. His contract expires next summer, so we're going to get him on a new contract this summer. A nice long boy. Even if we have to give him 10 grand a week, I feel like that's probably comfortably worth it. I like him a lot. I really, really do. And I feel like the more training he gets and the more match day experience he gets, and he's played, what's that, 37 competitive matches last season, which is a lot more like it from him, but I do want to see a bit more. Got to be said. Lee still amazingly here. Will be gone in the summer, though. Played a season at Charlton, in fact, a second season at Charlton. 5 goals and 5 assists, though. Ayman Luetti, he's done okay. Got that assist in the cup. I can't remember which game it was. I think it was against West Ham. He's been a solid backup, I suppose, to Alberto, and nothing really that much more than that. Again, it's one of those things where if I could find a player that's of solid ability and isn't perhaps wanted for so much money, these are the kind of players that I would be tempted to take bids from, just in case I could find someone who's of reasonable level but a bit younger and can maybe come through and play understudy to Alberto, particularly as he's a little bit injury prone, doesn't like the big matches, and it's one of those things where if the money was right, I'd be up for it. Harry McGuigan, of course, has been on loan at Scunthorpe again, I think for possibly the 3rd consecutive season. 6 goals and 6 assists. The guy's been great for him. When you look at his career stats for Scunthorpe, I mean, look at that. That's not actually bad. He's got 25 assists for them so far and 15 goals. It's pretty good. Radoslav Mijic, 5 starts for us in the Premier League. I don't think we'll be seeing much more of him because we're not really playing DMs anymore. Even in the more conservative approach, you notice we still didn't switch to a DM. We just kind of adjusted the midfield slightly. Issa and Peppo. Issa. I had high hopes for him given the way he started this year, but it does seem that he's just not quite been able to come up with what I wanted long term. When you see the amount of chances and shots he's had this year, he should have more goals than he does. He's got 14 goals and 7 assists in the league this year. Last year, he got 13 goals and 5 assists. Less player of the match awards, but his average rating overall is better, but he only scored 1 more goal. Sure, he did it in 2 less matches, and he's got a couple more assists, but that might just be because he took a few more corners. I feel like he's an excellent player, don't get me wrong, but look at the fact, £32 million he is valued at. Again, it's one of those things where I would be very tempted if we got the right offer on the table. It's just not happened for him here. 14 goals from the amount of chances he's had is just not acceptable. For the amount of shots we've had, I really feel like we need a better striker than this. And I don't know how, but I feel like a lot of our money this summer is going to go on a striker. But I'm hoping I could maybe leverage some deals from other players. This might be one of the first summers where we're really going big on some sales to try and clear out the squad a little bit and just streamline things a little, remove a little bit of dead weight for big money and try to invest in the right areas of the team, particularly the striker. I don't want to sell, when I say all these players, I'm like, I could sell him. That doesn't mean I'm going to sell all of them, obviously. They're just one of the ones that I would be potentially open to talking about. Again, it's one of the things where he's a really good player. His anticipation's a little bit low. Perhaps that's a reason. I don't know. Good composure. His finishing isn't fantastic, in fairness, but he's still a good player. What's he considered? A decent player for most Premier League sides. Based on that, you'd expect him to be doing better with the chances he's got. I don't know. He's just not. And remember, he's scored 4 penalties as well. That's only 10 goals from open play this season. In fact, it might even be less because he's scored, I think, at least 1 direct free kick as well. So not ideal. Martin Payton has been out on loan at Doncaster, who are being relegated this year. He was also red-carded 3 times. Not so good there, Martin. And of course, my man Paul played a couple of games in the Premier League, but not a great deal. He wants out. It's a difficult situation because of his value, based on the fact that his contract's up next summer. And he wants me to loan him out. I tried, and then it failed, and then he complained. You know how it goes. Pavlovic has been on loan at Novi Sad over in Serbia, but again, his contract will be up in the summer, and I have no extension plans. Gael Perrier. What can I say? Huge fan of the lad. I really liked his work this season. I'm concerned about that, though. We'll have to be careful with that. I don't think he's got a release clause, though. Turns out he does, but it's £85 million. And he's only on 35k. So if I got the chance, I might potentially get him on a new contract without the release clause. Even if I have to give him £60,000-70,000 to do that, I'd probably be willing to do that more so, because the one is, it's for clubs in continental competition. Now, I don't know if that's cancelled out because we're also in continental competition. So I don't know if that counts. Probably not, though. And of course, Dario Santana. Now, he only scored 2 goals and 1 assist when he came in. Fair enough. But there's so many other things he did. And when you look at when you'll see this and when we do the analysis, the amount of points per game we get when he's in the team, we concede less goals and we score more. For whatever reason, he has a hell of an effect for us so far. And I think next year, a full season of him in that role could really see us flourish with him and Alberto linking that partnership up. And once we get rid of this player trait, I think that's going to make a massive difference too. Dusan Sekinic, his contract is up in the summer as well. He's not the sort of player that, unfortunately, I want to be sticking around currently. He's just a little bit too far down the old pecking order there. Actually, to be fair, our midfield is looking a little bit light at the moment, so we might need to look into getting some players there. But the thing is, he want too much money. Let's see, he's on 26k a week right now, which is quite a fair amount for not a player that's going to play that much. See if he wants less. Let's just try that out. Okay, so impact sub, which would be nice. Let's see if I can get him down on wages. So I'm going to try and offer him this. With a £0 relegation release clause, it can generally leverage you a bit of money sometimes. 15k, so it would knock 10k off of his, and we'd have an optional extension. But this is not with me suggesting, this is my assistant, so we'll just see what he does. I bet he wants like 40,000. It's not the end of the world, to be fair. I don't want this yearly wage rise, though. He's set up for 17k for an extension. No release clause, none of that stuff, no wage rises or anything. Yeah, there's a loyalty bonus in there, but it does shave £10,000 a week off of his wages, and I kind of do want to keep him around a little bit, just as an option in that central midfield. And he's actually taken a pay cut, which is actually surprising, to be honest. Thomas Stepanek, what a lad, what a season. New contract for him, he's on to £55,000 a week. Obviously, he stepped up and then stepped it off towards the end of the year, but the improvement is there. He's got 9 goals and 8 assists this season in the Premier League. More goals in less time, another assist, and also 7 Man of the Match awards. He has just improved in general over his recent performances. Next year, I think he can break double figures on both of those. Perhaps not on Man of the Match awards, but if he carries on improving the way that he has, then I can only see him going upwards. We're pretty low on possession. We're going to kind of buzz through these a little bit more. Headers 1 ratio, 65. Mwah. This is beautiful. This is what I wanted to see. I wanted to make sure that we were up on that because, well, you saw how bad we were in certain situations. Headers 1, we're not on the top of that one, but that's fine. We've got the highest ratio, which is kind of what matters to me. Form is irrelevant. Goals, 8th. At one point, we were up as high as 4th, but 54 goals scored is definitely an improvement over last season. It has to be. Cross completion, 7th. That's much more like it. I feel like we're improving on that one. Crosses completed, okay, a little bit lower, but at least we are competing them. Wow, at one point, we were winning this comfortably. 12 is very, very good, of course. But the fact that it shows that we're not like completely like exploiting something when other teams are actually still getting more from corners than we are. But that being said, we've also conceded loads too, though, to be fair. So 12 for us from there. We did score 1 direct free kicks. That's 13. And indirect free kicks were rubbish from this year, 3. So 16 goals. Well, actually, you can count penalties too. We used to be really good from indirect free kicks, and this season it's just not happened. Pass completion ratio, middle of the road, fair enough. Passes completed, very down towards the bottom. But look at this. Second most chances in the league. That right there is the reason why I feel like we need a new striker. We created 114 chances this year, which is up there with like Champions League teams comfortably, and yet we were 9th in the Premier League. I mean, that's just not acceptable. Shots on target ratio as well. We have the highest rate of shots on target in the division. So we create a lot of chances, and we hit the target the most, and yet somehow we don't score that many goals. 6th most shots in target in the league at 310 as well. Like more than Arsenal, more than Leicester, way more than Spurs. And again, we're just missing them. Conversion rate, again, it's down at 9, and that's where the problems start to come in. Fouls against, we're fouled quite a lot too. And dribbles per game, we finally win one. 22, we're normally tied with City, but this year we've overdone it, probably because of Stepanek stepping things up. Conceded 16 goals is insane. If it wasn't for that final spell of shitness, we'd have probably been more like here. And that's a good sign, if we could be a bit more conservative on that one. Goals conceded from corners, again, you can see 9, but also a lot of teams are worse than us. Direct free kicks, 1, so that's 10 on that. And then, this is always us bad, 8. So 18 of our goals came from either corners, direct free kicks, or indirect free kicks. That's 18. And also there were some penalties in there too. So penalties conceded, 5. I think they scored them all as well. So actually 23 goals this season of our goals conceded came from set piece situations. I don't know if that counts second phase or not. So it could actually be even more than that, which is insane. Weirdly, we have the lowest tackles won ratio of any team, but that might be because we tackle a lot. Player detailed is where I often find a lot of our potential signings for next season sometimes, because I find that often a player that's for a bad side, sometimes they can have their stats accentuate because, particularly from a defensive standpoint, if they're winning a lot of headers, it's probably because they're having to face a lot of headers. But what I would say is that the players we've signed, like Gael Perrier, Celso, Alberto, players that have come in based on those attributes, and I don't normally sign players like this, but I've signed them for those reasons, have continued to put up those numbers whilst playing for us. And that shows you something. And that actually does show that this is a good scouting tool sometimes. Not always, though. I mean, Stepanek had the second most player of the match awards in the entire league. Francisco Trincao, who is that Portuguese right back or winger that plays for Watford, is insane. Distance cover per 90 minutes. Anyone on here at all? Yeah, I figured Steppers would be on there. Average rating, of course, nobody in the top 10 or 20 for that one. Headers 1, Celso, 203. Gael Perrier, 173. Anyone? This is the guy I was on about. Nikolai Jespersen, the Danish centre-back that plays for Brighton. He's the other guy that I've been sort of keeping an eye on recently, and they have been relegated. Burnley didn't go down, did they? So that's irrelevant. I might have a look at Jespersen right now, actually. So here he is. We don't know that much about him. We know he's 6'2". He's got decent heading, but great marking and tackling as well. He's reasonably quick too. He's a Danish international at 24 years old, but he is on 115 grand a week. It's a lot of money. My main question would be if he has a release clause. So we're going to scout him and just see. Because if he does, he might have a relegation release clause where we could pick him up on the cheap, and therefore that would offset some of the wages. Now, again, I don't think we need a centre-back, but it depends. The deal could be ridiculously good to the point where it would actually worth doing for us. Because the fact is, this guy, there's clearly a reason why he's been able to complete so many headers this season. Then again, Celso's done better than him, so there's that. Troy Parrott, obviously top scorer in the league for Manchester United. Issa Mpepo, still the 6th highest, in fairness, but I would like a bit more from him than that. I don't suppose any of the relegation threatened sides, other than Morelos here, and obviously Cerezo, who we are looking at still. There is potential, maybe, to go after him, given that he's got that £26 million release clause, active relegation release clause. So we definitely could take an interest in that if things would come right, but he's on a lot of money. Again, that's the main problem there. Minutes per goal. Maybe someone magical steps up here. I think it's unlikely, but you never know. In fact, Mpepo slips down a bit further because he's played a lot of matches on that one. Rob Brain has had an awful lot of shots, I'd have to say. And this is what I mean. Stepanek with 99 shots. Like, you'd actually feel like he should probably score more goals than he does, but I guess he does take them from a wide area. Alvarenga is that guy that plays for Brentford. Isn't he like a... Oh, he is an advanced forward. 7 goals and 3 assists in the league so far this season. Runs through the centre, cuts inside from both wings, even though he's a striker. Finishing, I mean, I don't see how he'd be any better than Mpepo with these attributes. No, we don't know anything about that either. Shots on target, I mean, Rob Brain is again up there. Stepanek with 67 and Mpepo with 61. So Mpepo is not quite been as bad as I would have perhaps thought, I suppose, given that. Shots on target, I mean, look at that, Darren Lever, 71%. These two love a shot on target is what I would say. Conversion ratio. Yeah, we were never going to have anyone on there, were we? Let's face it, that was not going to happen. Penalties, Nemecha with... I mean, if Mpepo scored 4 out of 5, which is not bad. I think he hit the post with one. Oh, no, it was in the game against Burnley. Or was it? No, it was against Norwich, where he should have had that hat-trick in the first 12 minutes. Stepanek, up there on assists, and Mpepo's got a few assists, but again, mostly from corners. Key passes, Silla, 83. One of the best key passing players in the division at 83. That is a really top work. Like, he's in big company here. Anybody else on here that surprises me? Not really. Chances created personally. Stepanek, 23, and Mpepo, 19. This is all good signs. All signs are pointing to good things for us, I'd have to say. Pass completion, not for us. Cross completion, again, not really for us. Dribbles per 90 minutes. Stepanek is still nearly there, but not quite just yet. Tackles per 90 minutes. Lamchic, I mean, look at that. That's some big numbers from him. Anybody else that sort of stands out for me on here? One, Nathan Holland. Not really. No regens, anyway. The reason I'm looking particularly at regens is because real players are, generally speaking, sort of late 20s now, and the wages would be insane. Mistakes leading to goals. No one on there for us, which is good. Mistakes, we probably... Yeah, we do. Chitio, unfortunately, has made a few. Key tackles. Perrier, 24. Alberto, 23. But again, you can see Jespersen's up here. Like, he's consistently performing at a very high level. And that's the sort of reasons why I would be interested in a player like him for a team like ours. Because of those very reasons. If we were to lose one of the others, he's the sort of guy I would go after. Key headers as well. 104. I mean, look, this is what I mean. They continue to prove themselves in those attributes, despite playing for a slightly different type of team. And it's only Jespersen that separates the two of them. It feels like he'd actually be the perfect third choice, like the perfect third player to have in those three. To rotate them around would be Nikolai Jespersen, but I don't think that's an area we need a player right now. But goddamn do I want him based on that purely. Where's Sutton for Norwich City? He's a central defender as well. 6'1". No, he'd cost us too much money, I think. Then again, they are getting relegated, so you never know. Seems unlikely, though. Interceptions, look at that. 144. That's just insane. And they're up there as well. They do seem to continually perform. I can't really argue with that. Shots blocked as well. Gael Perrier, 27 shots blocked. Celso in there too. Nikolai Jespersen in there as well. Yeah, you get the drift. Matty Gilchrist, potentially. He's a defensive midfielder. Not for me. It just wouldn't work. And, of course, the rest is goalkeeping. So, let's have a look at player analysis. Alrighty then. So, mainly it's been Alberto and Chitiyu, but Luetti and Kim have played enough for me to have a look at them potentially. So, we will see. So, team conceded per 90 minutes. Well, I mean, need I say any more? When Kim's been in the team, we concede nearly 3 goals per game, whereas with Chitiyu, it's only down at... What? That is insane! This is what I mean. He's been so good from a defensive standpoint this year, and Alberto's been pretty solid as well, compared to Luetti anyway. Interceptions. He makes way more than Kim, and Alberto makes way more as well. Tackles 1 ratio. Luetti does win a decent number of tackles, but Kim really does not. Pass completion is all about the same. Key passes per 90 minutes. Luetti does make a few of those, more so than Alberto, and Chitiyu is just better in general. And obviously, and that's another key thing, both Chitiyu and Alberto, 80% headers 1 or more. That makes such a huge difference. Dribbles per game as well. Alberto loves a dribble. Chitiyu not quite so much. Cross completion. Alberto, 21%. Chitiyu at 13 is way better than Kim, which is interesting considering Kim actually has crossing ability. Well, no, actually 10 and 8 compared to 9 and 9. So I feel like if we had a guy that's closer to 20 on that side as well, that would be the big difference. If I could find a right back that has everything else that Chitiyu has, I'm probably still saying his name wrong, by the way. I do apologise for that. I'm way further ahead than I would normally be. All those attributes, but like 12 and 12 on dribbling and crossing. I think that would be my perfect fullback on the right-hand side, essentially. That's what I'm looking at there. So if I can find that, then I'd be interested. Alberto's done well. GTU's still created a decent number of chances. Luetti's not bad. He's a pretty solid understudy. Kim has been utterly woeful, though. I know he's not played that many minutes, but he has started 8 games this season, which is important. Team goals, I mean, we score more goals with both of these two in the team. They hit the target more. We win more points with both of these two in the team as well. Like, it kind of goes without saying. Alberto and Lamjed have been stars for us this year, and I think have really been the reason that our defence has improved dramatically. Particularly when you take a look at how many goals we've conceded in games in which Kim has played, compared to GT. I mean, that's nearly 3 times the number. That's actually amazing. So I think, very simply, my plan in the summer for these positions is I actually wouldn't mind keeping Luetti for another season to just play understudy to Alberto, unless I can find someone amazing. I still want to look for youngsters, of course, and I'm always on the lookout. Last season it was a bit more targeted, but I might try and be a bit more scattergun with the approach this year. Try to target a couple of key roles, for example, like the right-back spot maybe, but mostly the striker. That's the main... If I was to strengthen one position in the defence, it would still be that right-back spot, only to give us a bit more attacking intent. But it could also be that he's not getting so far forward because we're not really relying on him to overlap. So he's actually quite comfortable in the role he's playing, and maybe we're just expecting too much of him from an attacking output. When the fact is, from a defensive standpoint, he's great, and he still creates a decent number of chances when he's in the team anyway. So perhaps it's not the end of the world, him being in the way that he is. I really do like the lad, though. So yeah, maybe a right-back, perhaps. Now, there's not really a great deal of analysis we can do when it comes to centre-backs, purely because Young hasn't played enough games for me to even look at. Drina hasn't played that many either, but we've got to look at something here, because the fact is, Celso and Perrier have been so unbelievably consistent this season, where they have literally played almost every single match. Celso's played all 38 league games and 5 in the Cup, 43 appearances this season, and Gal Perrier has played, yeah, all of them. Which makes me wonder how on earth they've got different number of minutes played. Some of them somehow Celso's played 10 more minutes than Gal Perrier. I don't really know how that works. But nevertheless, they've played every single minute of every single game for us this season. Or maybe one played the Carabao Cup. Or maybe I substituted one of them due to a slight injury at some point and it cost them 10 minutes of playtime. I'm not sure. Anyway, they are gods. And obviously they'll be our starting centre-back pairing next year. And I think that's for the foreseeable future they will be. But we do need to look at what's behind them, particularly with a European campaign on the cards for next year. And I don't think Drina and Yundong Yong are going to be quite strong enough to do that. But the problem is we don't really have a great deal of money overall to overhaul the squad in terms of depth for that kind of performance. So I think we're going to have to rely on lots of youngsters for next season in order to sort of fill those gaps a little bit. So team conceded the most with Drina in the team. No surprises there. They make more interceptions than he does. Celso doesn't actually win that many tackles per game though, but it might be due to the way that he plays. Does he intercept a lot more? Well, I mean, he does, but not that much more than Perrier. So that's interesting how few tackles he wins. And his tackles won ratio is actually quite low, considering he's got, what's his tackling? 14. Okay, fair enough. He's more of an aerial presence than someone like Gael Perrier, who is 15 tackling, in fairness. He's a good passer of the ball, though. I am tempted to maybe try both of these two as like ball playing centre backs, or him particularly as a ball playing centre back. He's got 10 passing and Perrier's got 9. I don't know. I want to try and get their roles to be a bit more refined from just being centre back defend kind of situation. I wonder if I can give them a bit more responsibility next year, just to try some stuff out, maybe in the pre-seasons, see if they can find the odd pass themselves, you know, because they make some key passes this year. They win more headers than Drina, which is fine. They actually dribble a tiny bit more as well, complete some crosses, get some assists, chance creation, obviously there. We actually score less goals with them in the team, but it could be that Drina just happened to play in some games against poor teams in the Cup, so that could have maybe bolstered that. And it shows considering we concede more goals with him in the team, and that's actually where he would probably be more expected to do stuff, is in that. He does score a couple of goals though. He's got a couple of assists, a couple of goals. He does hit the target quite a lot, and he has more shots. We interestingly do win more points with him in the team. So I still think there's something there for Alan Drina as a player for us next year. And perhaps a loan spell is actually not the ideal thing, because I think he might get some game time in Europe and in the Cups next year, possibly a lot more than this year, particularly against like weaker teams in the Europa League, for example. If we get to the group stages, we might find a really poor team in there, or we've already qualified from something. So we could obviously try out the likes of Alan Drina just to give him some European experience, really. But I do think that... Actually, I might keep Young just for that. Well, I wouldn't mind signing a third centre-back just to give us a bit more stability because if Celso or Pereira did get stricken down with an injury, and next season they're going to need resting in places, it's not going to be as plain sailing as that again. I do wonder if the deal is right to sign someone like Nikolaj Jespersen, then it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to try something like that out, because he would probably be the perfect centre-back to have 3 of, in all honesty. Our cup overfloweth. But again, I don't know if I really want to do that with Jespersen. If he has like a stupidly low relegation release clause, then maybe it would be worth doing. But again, it comes down to wages and stuff like that. The striker is the main issue for us, I would say, at this current point. Anyway, let's go. We're going to skip DMs because there's really nothing to say about DMs. So we're going to go to centre mid straight away. Okay, so when it comes to centre midfielders, we've obviously got 4 of them that have played a decent number of minutes because Booty still has played a lot this season for us. So that's fine. We can have a look at his attributes because I still think he's probably done okay. I just think that it's almost certainly not going to be quite the level that we want him to be at just yet. But he has played in a variety of positions. They all kind of have, except for Ferguson, who would have exclusively played as the Metsala. So we've got to bear that in mind. So firstly, just team conceded. Dubois... No, actually, we conceded the least goals with Regan Booty in the team. That actually makes a lot of sense because both he and Silla are probably the best defensive players in the team. So having someone like Silla around really does help. Booty obviously can play at left back, so he does have that quality about him to be a good, solid defensive player. Now, the problem is, in order for him to play that role, he really needs to be the deep line playmaker, and that relies on him being able to spray passes. And you can see that compared to Dubois, sure, but not compared to Silla. It's just not even close. Interceptions, very, very close for all of them. Tackles, 1. Regan Booty does love winning a tackle. Silla, amazingly, no, despite the fact that he has 13 tackling compared to Regan Booty's 11. Which is interesting. I guess there's other attributes that obviously come into play there. Passes completed per 90 minutes. Silla is flying away, and 2.51 now, key passes per game. That's astonishingly good. Still, Regan Booty does outdo Remy Dubois, but there is the fitness levels with Remy Dubois, and I think over a full season, he'll probably start to get back up to full quality, and he's a lot younger as well. Headers 1 ratio, much, much better from... Actually, Dubois better in the air too, but Silla particularly good in this area. Really like that. Dubois and Ferguson love a bit of a dribble too, which is very helpful. Amazingly, Dubois got no assists, but hasn't really played that much. Regan Booty still has the most. He's actually got 6 assists this season. But again, that's because he's the only one of these 3 that takes set pieces. So that's very important to remember. When he's in the team, he very often ends up taking set pieces. So there is a slight sort of shading to that. That being said, good on the chance creation too. Dubois, quite low actually. So we've got to be careful there. Because we score a lot of goals with Booty in the team. This is what I mean. I wish I could keep him. I really do. I would love to have him around for another year, but I'm not paying... Well, I can't. I literally can't offer him any money at this point. He's even scored 3 goals this season, which is actually still pretty impressive. The guy can come up with stuff when asked to. He got that Buki banger against Burnley, I think it was. Points per game? Dubois is actually pretty solid on that one as well. He has a lot more shots than the others too, which is kind of interesting. He's an enigma of a player that really does... You know what, right? I just had a thought. He won't sign a new deal with us, but when he's released as a free transfer, he's not signed a contract with anyone else. I might actually be able to pick him straight back up again. And because he'll be a free transfer, he might want more money then. I might have a look and see how much money he'd want to come and join us, because then I could negotiate his squad status as a much lower player, because it would be more relative to his actual ability. So we might be able to let him release and then immediately try and sign him back on again. And that might allow us to get him on a much lower contract. So if I can do that, I promise you I will, to try and keep him around for a bit longer. Put him on a nice long, like 5-year deal. On a nice low contract, put an international wage clause in there or something to keep it down, because I don't see him ever getting an England call up. And that would maybe allow him to come back to the club. That's the only thing I can think of to keep Regan Booty at the club, because there's no other clubs interested in him at the moment. So it would just be nice to have him around, because in Europe next year, he'd be such a lovely, experienced head for us. And remember, he's our club captain as well. I really can't bear the thought of losing him. So hopefully this can work for us. That's my new plan. I hadn't thought about that. But in addition to that... Silla's obviously been great. My next year's plan is probably to have Dubois as the deep line playmaker and Silla as the Metsala, with Ferguson filling in, and hopefully Booty still around. But I wouldn't mind a couple more bodies in that midfield. If Sikanic signs a new deal, then he'll be here as well, which will be a nice addition. But I would like someone perhaps with high potential, even if they don't have the low... If they've got the low ability currently, I want someone that can maybe stretch into that role next year, play some games in Europe, get some experience, like an 18-year-old or something. We went through a spell of having a lot of centre mids, and now they've all kind of just sort of ebbed away over the recent years. With the likes of Robbie Burton leaving and all this sort of jazz. So I wouldn't mind just a couple of extra bodies in there, even if it's just youngsters trying to give us some strength there. So that's the plan now. So attacking mids. Now, it's super important that we remember that Ricky Griffiths has played... Where is it? It's on tactics, isn't it? He's played 13 times from the right, and look at his rating. It's so much better when he plays on that right-hand side than it is through the middle. I wish you could see more information than that. I swear you used to be able to, but we'll just have to bear that in mind for now. So we concede less goals with Son Johansson in the team. Their interceptions are about the same. Ricky Griffiths does love a bit more tackles, and he wins a lot more of them. Son Johansson does actually make more than 1 key pass per game. You'd think he'd have more assists than he does, considering that it's actually a solid amount. And his chance creation isn't too bad either. I just wonder if he's constantly providing chances, probably for Mpepo, who just ain't putting them away. Dribbles per game, Ricky Griffiths obviously flying on that one. Decent crosses, solid on the assists for both of them, in fairness. We score more goals with Ricky Griffiths in the team, and he himself has got a much better goal-scoring record. We do win more points with Son Johansson, though. So, I don't know what to do. I think I want to sign an attacking midfielder regardless, because this is not enough strength for Europe next year. If an offer came in for Son Johansson, I'd probably sell him over Griffiths, because I value Griffiths' intentions more. And if I could sign someone new, like if I already had another signing sorted out and he was like a world beater for that attacking midfield role, which is what we want for next season, and maybe Hansen would flourish in that role, we don't know. But I've not seen enough out of him. In the 2 years he's been at the club, he has made, 53 league starts, and he's got 2 goals. I mean, that is outrageous. When you look at his numbers for Ajax, 14 goals in the league for him. I mean, that is a lot. And I want to point out that, where is it? You can see is it stats? Right. You should be able to see purely the number of shots he's had, because I think this is important. So he's had, Jesus Christ, he's only had 26 shots this season, which actually isn't as many as you would have thought. But he's not scored a single goal, and he's only hit 9 of them on target. Oh dear. I don't know. What about comparing him to Griffiths? Has Griffiths got similar stats? Because that would actually explain a lot. We'll get rid of the cup ones here. We'll just go back to this. So this is the thing. Griffiths has played vastly less minutes than him. But then again, he would have played on the right. So the shots on target, he had like nearly 4 times the number. It's an interesting one. Hansen, despite having reasonably good dribbling of 15, he doesn't really dribble that much, really. I do wonder, though, if we could just have a little look at this role. Now, dribble more's already turned on for that role, so I don't know what it is. I think perhaps maybe we'd get more out of him if we went for the full attacking midfield role for the entire season. Maybe that would help us. Again, I'm not opposed to keeping him if I can't find anyone that's better, because honestly, he looks pretty good, but I don't know. I feel like this is the kind of position where you can pick up some amazing Brazilian player for like 5 million quid from like Fluminense or something who will just smash it. And I am trying to look for those guys because a lot of them are moving to championship clubs because they can get them cheap, and the championship clubs are bombing things with it. There's a few, like I think Cardiff have got a couple of them. Really good players. So yeah, we'll just move on to... let's move on to wingers. Now, due to the ambiguity about where Griffiths plays, it's hard to actually put him in a position on here. So we know that Thomas Stepanek is a great player, just undeniable on that right-hand side. I think, like, we know he's going to be our starter next year without a shadow of a doubt, unless he somehow leaves, which would be kind of shit. But at the very least, we get a lot of money, but that's not a player I can replace easily. He and the likes of he and Santana don't come around very often. So we're mainly looking at this left-hand side. Now, I would expect Santana to be probably the best comfortably, but I want to see how Lever compares to Guajardo to see if I was justified in playing him over Guajardo, quite simply. So let's go to team conceded per 90 minutes. You can see that Santana is 0.94. We concede less than a goal a game with Santana in the team. And Lever is vastly closer to the likes of Stepanek and Santana, whereas Guajardo, 2.33. That is an insanely large amount of goals conceded when he is in the team. Like, that goes without saying. He does make more interceptions, though, to be fair to him. In terms of tackles won, Stepanek is actually the lowest, but Santana and Lever both just about outdo him, not by a great deal. And also, very importantly here, their passing is vastly superior to Guajardo. 78 and 79. Lever is right there with Santana every step of the way, but that is a huge difference between the two. Key passes as well. Santana, 1.25 key passes per match. Massive upgrade over Guajardo. Lever is still better than Guajardo, which is the main thing, and Stepanek's nearly at 1 per game, but Santana being at 1.25, that is contributing a lot to the team, you'd have to say. 73% headers won ratio too is excellent. Lever again just about outperforming Guajardo. We've seen him win some pretty impressive headers. You can see more headers won just in general. Dribbles per game, Lever's is about the same as Guajardo right now, and Santana's is actually lower for some reason, despite having better dribbling. Now, I do wonder if that's because he has that cuts inside one, and it's just forcing him into trouble. And I wonder if he gets rid of that, if he might be able to take more people on. But it could also be down to the fact that he's not got pure pace. 14 and 15 to Guajardo's 17 and 14. that acceleration does kind of help with the dribbling, I imagine. Cross completion, very important stuff here. 27% for Santana, 22 for Lever, 22 for Stepanek, only 21, which is still pretty good for Guajardo, but Santana is definitely a cut above, and Lever's still better than, you know, you'd expect. Guajardo, though, not bad number of assists he's got. Stepanek up there solidly. Santana actually weirdly quite low, and I believe that's... Actually, I have no explanation for that, to be honest. There should be no reason why his assists are so low, considering the amount of cheek. I think it's just... That must be a statistical anomaly, surely. The key passes are right there. He's got all the attributes you'd expect him to do. He's completing loads of crosses. They're just not putting his chances away. Even his chance creation is massively higher than the other guys in his role. I think they're just not putting the chances away that he's created. Key thing again here, we score more goals with him in the team, an average of 2 per game. Lever, interestingly, the lowest there, so that's worth noting. Goals per 90 minutes. Now, Guajardo has definitely picked up some goals this year. Fair play to him. He has got a few, so there is that aspect of things. But, and this is a really important factor for me, Darren Lever really hits the target a lot with his shots. Santana's still outdoing Guajardo here, and obviously Stepanek just doing his thing. He loves to hit the target. Points per game, Santana, massively the highest. Guajardo, massively the lowest. Like, there's a big enough gap there for me to be like, there's definitely something going on here. So that's why next season it's going to be Santana and Stepanek, Darren Lever as the backup on the left, and on the right, maybe a new youngster, but we've also got Sean Lancaster coming through, and he might be able to do a job for us in Europe next year, perhaps, or play some of the weaker Premier League games and Cup. But I might like another backup to Thomas Stepanek on that right-hand side. There's no shortage of wingers available. They're not quite of his level, but it'd be nice to have someone there, just a youngster that can fill in and do a job, because Stepanek is not going to be able to play the full season for us next season. We can't afford to let him do that, because we can't afford to lose him, really. But it's going to be nice to have Santana. I think a full season of Dario Santana, we'll see a lot more out of him, because there's a lot of, like, cross completion is the highest. He's great in the air. He's great key passing, great chance creation. We get more points, concede less goals and score more. I think over the course of a full season, that will probably add up to some very important numbers for us from him. And that's a factor. Like, the fact is, when he came in, that was when we really started that upward trajectory. And when he was out injured, that was when we lost that 5 game in a row, basically. So something's got to be there. Maybe that's just me putting things together when they shouldn't be, but there you go. Finally, let's take a look at strikers. Important, though, I don't think there's a lot of comparisons to be made here. So really, we're only comparing Mpepo to Trofin. And Trofin would have also played a fair few matches. Where are we here? No, he's played 23 times at striker and 3 times at attacking midfielder. So I think we'll be fine by talking about him from this perspective. So, concede less goals than Mpepo in the team, not that important, but he does make more interceptions. That is kind of important. He does win less tackles, though. We know Trofin likes a bit of a tackle, and he's better at the pass, but he makes way less key passes. He's slightly better in the air, but he wins less headers. He dribbles less per game now, despite that, has worse crossing, and gets a lot less assists. But again, remember, Mpepo does take corners and free kicks. But then again, Trofin's also, his 1 assist was the... Hang on, I think Costello Trofin, I think his 1 assist was for Celso in the FA Cup semi-final against West Ham, maybe? I'm not sure. I also know that he put the free kick in that Stepanek was able to score in the FA Cup final, I think. We do score more goals with Costello Trofin in the team. That goes without saying, although he isn't the one getting them, it would seem. But we actually win less points. So, yeah. I don't know. I think from a striking standpoint, I think if I'm going to invest money, it needs to be in a new striker. I think Mpepo has been okay, but I didn't see enough of a step up from last year where he only scored 1 more Premier League goal than he did the season before. That's not the kind of step up I wanted in a team that's clearly creating more opportunities and they're not being put away by him. When you look at the number of shots he's had this year, we can just take a little look here. 72 shots on target has equated... Oh, wait, no, hang on. So 61 shots on target has equated to 14 goals. I don't know how good or bad that actually is. He's averaging 2 shots on target per match, but I don't know. So 62% shots on target ratio, and he has 2 shots on target per game, whereas Costello Trofin, we're looking at 65% shots on target ratio and nearly about the same. So he hits the target a little bit more, but he has only scored the 2 goals. So there is that kind of factoring into things a little bit in there. And I think one of those was from the penalty spot. So you can't, I don't know. I think we need another striker. I think we're getting too many chances for our strikers that are being missed, quite simply. Now, a lot of them do fall to our wingers too, so there is that factor, but enough of them fall to Mpepo that I feel like he should be closer to sort of, if he got like 18 goals this year, then I would be like, this guy actually... Because that would balance out the number of chances. I know that we're a mid-table side, but we're creating the amount of chances that you'd expect from a sort of top 4 type of team. And that's why you'd expect us to have more goals from our striker in general. Maybe I'm being too harsh on him, I don't know, but I feel like we do need to sign another striker in the summer, and that's probably going to be my main port of call. Striker, right back. Possibly an attacking midfielder, don't know. I don't know. That's going to be the main area that we're going to look for, as well as a smattering of youngsters. So that will do it for the... I'm trying to find something to... Alright, okay. So there's some vape coils here on my desk. So the word of the day is... No, maybe not... Let's not use those, actually. Let's try... Yeah, here we go. I've got a chapstick, which is Nivea. That'll do. Put your Nivea in the comment section. Use it in a sentence, of course. Yeah, so if you've enjoyed this video, drop a like. That'd be tremendous. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. That'd be glorious as well. And as always, hold your gun, capybara. I'll see you guys very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.